All right, our next guest on Central Valley Talk today is the author of this book, Carmen and Chia, Mix Magic, Dixie Salazar, originally from Chicago, but now living in Fresno. Dixie, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Carmen and Chia, Mix Magic.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the name.
Oh, well, I'm glad you like it.
So what's the story all about there? Young adult novel, by the way.
Young adult novel. There are two, a Hmong and a Mexican girl protagonists who come together to get the brother of Carmen's brother back, who's been captured by the ice, evil ice.
The evil ice?
The evil ice, yes.
The immigration.
Not all the ice are evil, I guess. Yes, the immigration. And they are trying to, they have a scheme going where they try to get people deported so they can steal their artifacts and their goods. So the two girls come together to try to rescue the brother.
I wonder if this is the first book featuring Hmong and Mexican characters as the lead.
It could be. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Did you research the Hmong community?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. What'd you find out?
Well, I was interested mostly in a lot of the shamanistic practices and things like that, because there's a shaman who comes into the story of Curandera, and of course they put their magic together. That because you have to, in order to save the world, we have to work together. So they're trying to put their magic together because it increases exponentially when you do that.
Okay. Okay. When did the seeds of this story start to germinate in your brain?
Oh, I don't know. I thought about it. I really thought about. I guess, to be honest, I wanted to write something I thought I might make some money from. I have 5.
It's always a good thing.
Well, I have 5 books of poetry, and I make very little money from
the poetry
those.
book, 5 books of poetry. They weren't
Not big sellers.
Not big sellers.
Surprisingly.
Yeah. But you enjoyed them.
Oh yes, yes.
But now you want
Well, I thought
a more mass appeal.
Yes, and actually, there was some other things that more altruistic feelings that prompted this book, because I also felt like most of the genre the young adult is part of a certain type, what they call genre, which you have to follow rules.
You do?
Yes.
What are those rules?
Well, one of the rules is that in this kind of action-adventure type story that there's a big fight at the end and good and evil face off and good wins.
Who wrote these rules?
Well, I don't know. Whoever started the genres, I guess.
Well, Twilight and those kind of books,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, they all kind of follow a basic pattern if you studied it, And my idea was that the world doesn't really work that way. Everything isn't always good, black and white, good and evil, and that there's things are a mixture of the two. And I wanted to try to write something where really a more advanced consciousness is at work. So it isn't just and also using forms of nonviolence to settle conflicts. So that was part of it.
I'm always curious with authors. Before you start writing the book, do you already have the story laid out in your head, or do you start writing and then it kind of unravels as you go along?
I had some basic ideas in place, but I think a lot of the story takes place in the editing. Because you start. I had basic ideas in place, and then it took little journeys as it went through the writing process. But then when I started the editing, that was a whole new. It's like starting over almost.
Yeah.
And the editing process was over a year long, and it was very grueling.
Wow. Now, did you have another editor outside look at it too, or?
I had a couple of people look at one, not an editor, but someone had looked at it and gave me the advice that I should break it into 2 books. So I really have the second book all done because I broke it into 2 parts. So this is part 1.
Doesn't say part 1 there.
I know, it doesn't.
All right. You said you recently did a reading at one of the local bookstores, or?
At the Gillis Branch Library.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
For a bunch of kids on a Saturday morning, or?
Well, it was all adults. I was disappointed no kids showed up.
But were they captivated by the story?
Well, they said they were.
Yeah. Well, you can tell looking out at them if they are or not, right?
They seem pretty interested.
Well, let's captivate our home audience today. You've marked a couple of pages there. Just pick one, and if you can read just a little bit
all right.
of Carmen and Chia, Mix Magic.
Where to start? It's hard to read fiction because you don't.
You didn't like the pages you marked?
Well, I don't know if that's a good place to start.
Any place is a good place to start.
Well, this is the mother, and she's hiding from the ice who have come to deport the brother.
Okay.
Rosa was used to making herself invisible. She had spent her life in the fields, one of the ghostly ones who pick the lettuce, the spinach, the grapes, that load the tables to fill the stomachs of those who never saw the stooped workers in their fields, even as they slid by in their air-conditioned SUVs. Rosa knew this time, however, she had to disappear quickly, and she had to make it good. She looked around the house in a panic, her heart chattering like a wild bird. Shall we leave it there so it's
Okay.
a little bit of a suspense?
A little tiny taste, yeah.
The ice are outside in the yard making a raid on the family, and so she's in the house, and she is undocumented, so she's afraid, and she has to hide. That's.
So do you think this would make a good movie?
Oh, of course I do.
Sure it would. Spielberg, if you're watching.
But, I'm an artist, and I think when I write poetry, fiction, whatever, I do a lot of visualizing in my head as I write.
Mm-hmm.
So I think creating those visual pictures in my mind helps to add that visual element.
Yeah. What did you do before you started writing?
Well,
Or did you always write?
no, I was really an artist, and I have a studio downtown here.
Painting or
Yes,
what? Ah.
painting mostly, but I did photography. I've done a lot of things.
Okay. What's the studio downtown?
654 Van Ness. It's called the Salazar Studio.
Is it by the AMVETS?
It is.
There you go.
Coincidentally, everything's coming together here.
It
isn't
is. It's all tying together today. Okay. Do you ever do readings at the studio?
I haven't, but I'm actually thinking about doing that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I had thought of it already, but you're giving me more impetus to
Well, good.
to do it.
Good. Okay. So the first book is done. You said the second one is basically done in your head. When you're going to start?
It's on paper.
Oh, it is on paper.
It just
Okay.
hasn't. The editing process took so long that I just.
You're taking a break.
Yeah. Well, I need to also promote this book.
Yeah.
So.
Well, how are you promoting it?
Well, this weekend, on Saturday, I'm going to be at the Great Valley Book Fest in Manteca.
Oh, really? Okay.
And it's a huge deal. I've never gone to this before.
You'll be signing copies of the book?
Hopefully, signing copies of the book. And there'll be a lot of other, mostly young adult. It's geared toward children, the whole festival is. And the books will be there for sale. And so it goes from 10 to 4 at I think it's called the Pro Bass Center there in Manteca. The
Pro
Bass
Bass.
Pro Center.
Oh, they have the big Bass Pro Shop up there. Yeah.
uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
It's in that
Okay.
shopping area.
Well, cool. All right, Dixie. Well, thank you so much.
Oh,
Is this book available on Amazon or
It's
print on demand, or where can folks find it?
It's available at Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, both online, and at there is an ebook version also available online.
All right.
Or I have it at my studio. You can also.
Go to the studio. She'll sign it for you, right?
Yes, there you go.
All right, Carmen and Chia Mix Magic. Interesting story about the relationship between a Mexican girl and a Hmong girl, and what the magic they find. All right, Dixie Salazar, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. All right, good reading here on Central Valley Talk.